Today we're going to discuss one very influential thinker who hugely contributed to philosophical, political thought of 19th and 20th centuries. And his name is Rousseau. He did contribute, he did influence, but in my estimate, he is a flawed thinker. He made certain mistakes that I would say contributed to misleading of the world. I would say he misled the world through his influence on Marx and many other thinkers. If Locke contributed positively, I would say Rousseau contributed negatively. But of course, man should learn through mistakes. Mankind should learn through mistakes. But I think the people who make mistakes, who mislead, also contribute to the final wisdom. So that's how I would take Rousseau as a positive contributor, because he made us realize certain very serious flaws. I want to take up two of his views and how they may have contributed to the mess of 20th century. Number one, his primary concern is inequalities. And much later, Marx's concern also is the same. He thought that the inequalities are at the center of what is wrong with the society. Not just what is wrong with the society, but also what is wrong with man. So, he thought of a system without inequalities. The inequalities are making a man to be power hungry and self-interested. Inequalities are making him to be like this. And this means unkind, violent, and so wrong. So inequalities are influencing human nature. The real human nature is not this. This is the position which Marx took up later. So human nature is influenced by inequalities. Marx would later say human nature is influenced by economic system. And real human nature would be different. If man is as rotten as what he is, it is because of capitalism. In communism, he would be different. I would say man is by birth power oriented and self-interested. And this nature, when there are opportunity to accumulate wealth, are leading to inequalities. Rousseau thought of this. Of course, that is one line, but this line is important. Man by nature is power-oriented and self-interested, and when there are right conditions, leading to inequalities. But Rousseau's line is this. So he thought, if you change the inequalities, then human nature itself will be changed. So, the primacy to inequalities, I think that is misplaced. Locke, for example, didn't give primacy to inequalities, he gave primacy to right to property. No matter what kind of inequalities that it might generate. Locke gave importance to rights, Rousseau gave importance to this. So, at the center of the evil of society are inequalities. At the center of baseness of man, inequalities. So, I think that thinking is very, very clearly wrong. And given his understanding of inequalities and human nature, he proposed an alternative. That he said, general will. General will. General will is something like this. Suppose the society is relatively egalitarian or nearly egalitarian, because Rousseau thought some proper differences can be there. He said, as long as those property differences are not so high as they can work as power over others, there is no problem. So in a relatively egalitarian society where the inequalities are very low, and if they follow direct democracy, which is true of small populations, then whatever the law that they pass is good for all. In a direct democracy, in an egalitarian society, if they pass a law, then it will be good for all. And what they pass is general will. General will is good for all. He is not saying that general will is good for the majority. It's for all. So whatever in a small population of a relatively egalitarian society, if they pass a legislation, then everybody should go by it. Why should everybody go by it? Why should everybody go by it? Because it's good for all. But then suppose if some members feel that it is not good for them, then Rousseau would say they are wrong. They should be taught that the general will is good for them. General will enhances their freedom. And so he said famously that they should be forced to be free. The unwilling. Should be forced to be free. It means the general will is so great that individuals should be forced to be free. If they don't realize that it is good for them, then it is their mistake. So what the general will says is a virtue. And if society is going by the general will, there is no clash between the virtue and private interest. So common and private merge. Private and general merge. And if some individuals don't see it, it's their problem. They should be forced to be free. What does this show? To me, it only shows the arrogance that Karl Marx would share one day. Such an idea is not wrong only at the community level or a state level. I think such an idea is wrong even at a family level. Family members decide that one son has to do this. And within the family there are no inequalities. Probably there is concern and affection, narrowly defined. And then they tell the son that they should write this exam or do this. So then he should follow the general will. He should be forced to be free. So what it negates is individuals' freedom. Individuals' right to disagree with the crowd. So what Rousseau is proposing is rule of a mob, crowd, except that this mob or crowd won't have income inequalities. That's all. So, by insisting on income inequalities, or elimination of income inequalities, he is laying foundations alternative to capitalism, socialism. And by insisting that people should be forced to be free when they don't realize, he is creating conditions for totalitarian systems, not respecting people's will, but proposing an idea. Some ideology is superior to individuals' notion of freedom. That's just what former USSR got into. And these are the two things that Marx accepted and proposed. So, Rousseau's ideas are are against capitalism, against democracy. These are the two ideologies that emerged victorious at the end of the 20th century. So, Rousseau was the author of systems opposing these two. And we know now, many people suffered, many died in working out alternatives to capitalism and democracy. And definitely, Rousseau is responsible for that.